On to another edition of Markets Hunter. I am your host, Hunter Gaylor. Another special edition of the American Wallet. We talk about companies, and we're going to bring in John Lai here shortly, who's the CEO of PetVivo. We will love to hear from him on the developments of his company. But before we dive into that, just a couple of housekeeping. We're going to be going over a lot of stuff with John's company. After we post the video, the links to the various press releases that have come out about his company are going to be posted on the links below. We'll also have an article that's coming out on the American Wallet newsletter on LinkedIn, talking about some of the stuff that John and I are going to discuss today here in studio. So make sure you like and subscribe and follow the American Wallet newsletter. We're well over 1,000 subscribers on that newsletter alone, so the engagement has been very, very positive. And follow us on X as well, where we will repost a lot of this information, so you can make sure no platform that you are on, you will never not be able to find out the information, because that's our promise to you, bringing all the great opportunities to consider with your host, myself, the Doctor of Democracy over here, bringing lots of information. So I'm going to bring in John without further ado. John, welcome to the program today.
Thank you, Hunter. Great to be here.
No, it's great to have you in, John. And I know since the last time we've talked and had you on the program, there's been a tremendous amount of development within your company. And I really want to dive in depth and kind of go through these what I would consider very positive developments within the company. Several press releases have come out. You just attended the VMX, which is one of the largest veterinarian conventions that went on. And I believe that was at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then I want to get your thoughts on how these meetings have been going, how these conferences have been going, what the reception of the technology, obviously SPRYNG and the OsteoCushion Technology is just, you're getting more and more notoriety. You're really expanding with your distribution. So let me give you the floor, John.
Well, thank you. So since the ethos study that was presented at the American College of Veterinary Surgeons for stifle injuries in dogs, we're getting very good penetration into the small animal side. So at the VMX in Orlando, it is the largest conference in the United States for veterinary doctors and vet techs. I think they had 15,000 in attendance, which is very good. One of the biggest noted things, and we have always talked about one of the strategies that would propel adoption, is podium presentations by veterinary doctors that are key opinion leaders outside of PetVivo. So we actually had 4 veterinary doctors during the presentation talk about our product. We knew 2 of them were, the other 2 we didn't. So it was a good, pleasant surprise. And one of them mentioned us 5 times. And I told her, I said, if you just mention 5 more times, I'll buy you 10 drinks. And she started laughing.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah. So every time they talk, it draws attention, and these vets and vet techs come to our booth and ask more about the product. So one of the noticeable things we're seeing at these conferences, not just this one, but other conferences, is that the veterinary doctors from 3 years ago that came up said, what are you guys? Last year they go, I've heard of you guys, but I don't know any vet friends that are using it. This year they're all coming up and saying, I'm hearing great things from my friends that are using the product. I want to learn more about it, and then they end up ordering. And the order sizes are getting bigger. Back in a year and a half, the average first-time order size, they're going to try 1 to 2 syringes. Now we're seeing them go to 4 to 6 on their first order.
Wow, almost double.
Yeah. And so we're going to see revenue mix going forward. Right now, over 90% of our sales are still in equine. I think within 18 months to 24 months, you're going to see 90-10 the other way. 90% small animal and 10% on the equine side. So we're excited coming out of that because of all the key opinion leaders speaking. And so we're very happy with the new adoption and bringing on Covetrus, which is the second largest distributor in the United States. We're looking forward to doing the training with their sales team, the territorial managers, in early March, because it's a big company, so you got to get into the schedule of training their salespeople on the differentiation with our product versus.
John, obviously the expansion is going well. These veterinarians, I mean, I really like the reference where you said, if she says it 5 more times, you go buy her, buy her 10 drinks. That's really good. So there's some other news that came out with the key patent application. This was in a press release that just came out. This brings you to 22 allowed and/or issued, 12 of which are U.S. patents. I'd like you to dive in a little bit as to what the actual the key patent applications are, if you can get into that, and what that means for the company and the marketplace.
So as we develop other applications or potential applications of our biomaterials, we keep expanding our patent. It does one of two things. It broadens our scope of protection and lengthens the time of protection. Also, it will kind of give you a clue of where our different markets or potentials we can use the biomaterials in as we look at expansion, because we are a biomaterials company. We are not just a simple one product company. We have multiple products in the animal health space as well as in the human space. Even though we're focused on animal health right now, eventually we will come back. So we have very good opportunity expanding patent protection and length of duration of these patents. And so that's pretty exciting for our scientific team and our patent team. So we're very good at keeping the files open on these patents.
Well, I mean, we've talked about in the past, you've set up for things outside. We started in the equestrian space. You've moved to the feline space, the small pets, dogs, cats. You're having massive attendance and exposure at these veterinarian conferences. In fact, you're going to be at the Microcap conference, which is at Caesar's Palace in Atlantic City. So if people are in the area, they can come see you. And then you're also going to the second largest conference and that's in Las Vegas and where, can you give us the details on that?
Sure. It's called the Western Veterinary Conference. It is the second largest veterinary conference, but it's located on the West Coast. So we tend to pick up all the West Coast vets that didn't want to go to Orlando. And we get a lot of Vancouver vets at this show, and they've been requesting the product. And so we're moving along very good with Health Canada on working on, and we feel we're not that far away from Canadian distribution. But the Western Veterinary...
That's a big lead, John, because you had tremendous success in the United States, but is moving into Canada the first time that you'll be operating and distributing outside of the United States with the product?
Yes, because every country has the regulatory unit, and governments like to take their cut of the pie. So you got to go through the process and pay the local government.
Right. Well, yeah, especially when you start working. But I think this goes to speak to the volume that this isn't just, obviously the success and potential market we've talked about for the size and scope of what PetVivo can be with the SPRYNG product, especially when we're hearing the numbers, like you said earlier on in our discussions. The average syringe was 2. Now you're getting 4 to 6. I mean, that's a tremendous double increase. And the fact that you can look at what the total addressable is in the United States for just the pet market, the equestrian market. Now, as we begin looking at what the addressable market is outside of the United States, that's obviously going to drive a tremendous amount of shareholder value, I would assume.
Yes. There's a lot going on in the United States. So, we stay focused there, but because Canada has so many vets that come down to Vegas, they get away from the cold weather, and we're able to see a lot of the products. And it's interesting because we know of some of the Canadian vets send me photos of them injecting SPRYNG, and I go, "How did you get it?" They go, "Well, one of my friends is a vet right across the border up in New York area. They ordered it for me, and I just went and picked it up." I said, "Oh, okay."
No, that works. So, John, obviously the market's expanding. I know we've gone through, the patents. We've talked about a lot of the conventions you've been at. Are there any more developments that you want to share with the audience with regards to, milestones that you're reaching, new things that are coming out. Obviously, your sales are increasing. That's an obvious point here. So talk to us a little bit about where you see the next, say, 2 quarters going specifically for your company.
So there are 2 studies that we completed a while ago, and we were been accepted to be published in 2 very leading journals. We ran into a difficulty, their time lag. It looks like it's 9 months after they accept you. And I said, God, it's not worth that time. So we will publish them ourselves in the form of a white paper. So I would expect those 2 to come out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of the vets, I think, are moved beyond the publishing of the paper, or it's good. It's good that we're going to have that coming out. So I think that will help also further adoption. We have multiple presentations being done at the Western. So we're excited there. The next 2 quarters, I think the acceleration will just keep going as we get more and more data out in the field. And as these 2 trade shows are the big ones for the year. I mean, every week there's a regional trade show or local trade show, but these 2 are big catalysts to jump off on. And given that I'm very confident that we're going to have some prominent vets talk at the Western Veterinary. And I think, so given that will also add a lot of new adoption. And then also we're much more focused now on telling the Canadian veterinary doctors that we're not that far away and that a Canadian distributor will be reaching out to them in a very short period of time.
Well, that's tremendous. Now, I want to focus a little bit. Obviously, this is the markets hunter, and so we do want to cover a little bit of the markets with you, given some of your experience. But before we do that, obviously, your company's publicly traded. You can follow along the stock symbol as we have below, PETV. Talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on the market, how you guys have been positioning. Obviously, we just came out of some tumultuous times, some kind of very wavy markets, and I want to ask a 2-part question. The first part of the question is where you see PetVivo in the marketplace, and then we'll get your thoughts on kind of the overall marketplace and your thoughts on the market. So because obviously there's a lot going on there. So let's start with with your company and where you see yourself being positioned now.
Sure. I think we were one of the better performing companies in December and January. I think we were up over 60%. And as a nano cap within our peer group, I think we were the top performing stock. I've become very bullish in the overall market, especially in the small cap medical technologies, because 1, on a valuation basis, and then 2, on a technical analysis basis. Given what I've described regarding PetVivo, there are multiple catalysts, and it's just a function of the investor looking at the risk reward of the investment and the momentum the company has and the stock has. From a technical analysis, it's pretty easy. The 50-day is starting to bend up, and if it breaks over the 200-day, you should see a very good technical run in the stock. The overall market, I'm very bullish on what we describe as the XBI index, which is the small cap biotech and medical device companies. So that index had the biggest drop in history and disparity between the S&P 500 and the XBI index in the history of the index. Okay, so the index fell from 173 down to 63, and it's probably sitting around 90. Yeah, so that's one of my top picks as an ETF for the industry, because it's really difficult to pick individual companies out that they're going to make breakthroughs, but it's a risk reward scenario. And the other that I've looked at is the S&P continues to make new highs, but I do believe it's going to rotate into a equally weighted index that will be advantaged, because it's Magnificent 7, actually Magnificent 6, since I've been so negative on Tesla. Tesla has been falling apart, and it will, I believe it will continue. So The index that works for that on an equal weighted basis is the RSP, which I think the market will continue to broaden out going forward. And I'm anticipating rate cuts in June. And I don't look more than 3 rate cuts. I know the market at one time went a little crazy talking about rate cuts in March, and we would see 6 of them. I don't see that happening because the economy is slowing down, but not at the rate it needs to be. And wage inflation in the labor market will stay sticky. It will stay up there. I don't see a breakdown of that, even though we're seeing layoffs at a lot of companies. But that's also more of restructuring to what the market wants them to do, because the market wants you to cut expenses and get to a quicker path of profitability instead of growth at all costs. But I do see that scenario changing in July.
Well, I've seen a fundamental shift in the way that companies are being run. We're seeing a lot of companies that are restructuring their cap stack and their way they're operating their companies, because I think people are looking, as you said, a faster way to profitability by obviously lowering your costs and increasing your profit margin. So I absolutely see that happening, especially when we just went to a global pandemic. We had people not working. And so now as we start seeing things ramp up, and it's an election year, so we're going to obviously pay very close attention to the market. And obviously the smaller, and I like how you refer to the XBI index, because, when we look at this and we do look at how well your company survived through all of the, kind of tumultuous ups and downs. And, we won't say that there were certain things that were going on with regards to short selling and selling and some of these things, because we can't necessarily prove it. But I mean, we'll look at the charts and you can come to your own conclusions on that. But being able to survive and be a weathered company, I think speaks volumes, especially when we look at the share count, we look at what your profitability is from your manufacturing costs to your overall distribution, now your expansion plans. So I think the more and more, and this is just my analysis on the company, the more that you are able to get the SPRYNG product inside the hands of more veterinarians and have them have a better understanding and being on more of these stages, that's just going to increase more demand, which is going to increase more, education and awareness in the market. So it's going to be very interesting to watch how the next 2 quarters are, especially you've attended these 2 largest conferences, both on the East Coast and then on the West Coast. So I think we'll follow up with you after that and see what the response has been, because I'm sure we'll see some upticks.
Yeah, and a lot of validation within the marketplaces when you sign the 2nd largest distributor, Covetrus, right next to MWI, and we feel that will expand, because that's all validation of what they see coming forward in the product, and the way I would interpret that.
Well, I mean, if they're out in the fields and these are the ones that are responsible for acquiring new products to be able to put down their supply chain, right, to their already existing, it's like pharmaceutical sales, right? If you have the new hot thing, and you obviously have the new hot thing backed by all of the studies, that's getting a lot of attention, to me, it seems like it's a no-brainer for growth. So the fact that you're getting really these are the 2 distribution companies possibly get. So that's pretty exciting. John, it's always a pleasure to have you on the program. I'll give you the final floor here if you want to add anything that you think will be valuable for our audience. But as always, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Hey, great. Thank you. The only thing is stay tuned to the website and news releases of the company. We're entering very exciting times.
Well, thank you, John, and it's always a pleasure. All the information is going to be at the bottom of the screen below for all of our viewers. But John, always good to have you.
Well, thank you, Hunter.
Thank you, John. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was John Lies, the CEO of PetVivo. We love the company. We think that they're doing some incredible technological developments with their patent applications. If you are in the areas and you're able to attend any of the conferences and learn more about the products, obviously you can stay tuned to our show, both Markets Hunter and the American Wallet. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter as well, where we go into the company, the information that we feel is relevant for you, so that you can get an in-depth and actually hear from the executives themselves and get their takes on the market and where their companies are positioned and how they're positioned to be successful in the market. So that's always an exciting part and benefit of this program. So with all of that being said, this is Hunter Gaylor signing off from another episode of Markets Hunters, and we'll be right back here very soon.
Lameness issues, joint pain, and osteoarthritis can be difficult to treat and debilitating for an animal's health and well-being. Take control of lameness issues and joint pain. Introducing SPRYNG with OsteoCushion Technology. With just one injection, SPRYNG with OsteoCushion Technology targets the root cause of lameness issues, joint pain, and osteoarthritis, helping animals do what they do best.